been joined by Andy Shumate. Andy, we're just celebrating our 15th year working together. So pretty exciting. I think you said it was maybe this month, 2010 we started.
That's right.
So want to talk a little bit about your journey into landscape lighting. You grew up thinking and dreaming like, how do I get started in landscape lighting?
I knew it at 3.
It was a passion you had all your life.
Exactly.
And talk a little bit about that. Like you were seeking out lighting designers to get started.
Yes.
Was lighting something even on like something you were even considering, or something you even heard about prior to working with us?
No, I mean, I saw, homes with lighting, but not at all. Nothing I thought about. When I was younger, I was always very into drawing. I wanted to be a cartoonist when I was a kid, so I always liked art. But I had a very small business. Me and I had 2 guys doing pressure washing and gutter cleaning, so mainly gutter cleaning, pressure washing, window work. And I found out, I'm sure as you and Damien have found out, the pitfalls of owning a small business. There's a lot of stuff I didn't think about. I was going to college at the time, and after a few different issues, I had a neighbor that actually knew Damien, and he said, I know this guy, that real good guy, and he's starting or has a business called Mosquito Squad, and would you be interested? And I actually was looking for work, and I was just looking for something temporary to kind of transition me, whether it's out of my small business or into something else, just for the time being. I was 25 maybe at the time, and that led to me working with him for not too long. And I knew that wasn't something that I was passionate about, but he was like, hey, I also have this, my business partner, best friend is this guy named Patrick, and he has a lighting business. And right off the bat, when he described what you did, that was a lot more appealing to me. Anything, I looked at it more as something artistic and creative. And then, so I was like, yeah, I'd definitely love to meet him. And he's like, well, he needs a guy for a couple days. And he gave me a shot for a couple days. And after those few days, you were like, you're the greatest. Yeah, you're the best installer I've ever had.
So we did our traditional, back then in-depth interview. Basically, we handed you a trenching tool, a T-handle trencher, and said, let's see how you do. Let's see if your hands blister up. What were your first couple days like?
Definitely calloused hands. Luckily, I mean, I did, work, landscaping and stuff my whole life, but it was a lot more labor intensive than that. It was tough. Definitely some hard day. I had some tough jobs through my teens and early 20s, but this was up there, especially the first summer, 100-degree days. But yeah, first few days, calloused hands, tired, very difficult. I remember you had hired one other guy at the same day as me, and him and I were sharing a truck together. And I think by night 3, I was dropping him off, and he was like, man, I'm never coming back here. This is the hardest work I've ever had. And he was, I think, probably almost my age now. He was probably 40 at the time. Yeah. And he was like, this is the hardest work I've ever done. Yeah. And we never saw him again. So yeah, but I didn't mind it. And really what it came down to was I saw the growth potential. I liked the work. I liked you. I felt like you were an honest person. You had a good vision for a good business, and those were all things I was looking for.
Yeah. And so we got you going on installs. You were the path light king.
Yes.
So when I need to get my path lights perfectly even, we get crazy customers, like when they're out there with measuring sticks, and I think you remember the one lady that measured 16 of our path lights, and one of them was a 1/4 inch off on the other side of the driveway on its height.
Yes.
And so we had to go back and remeasure each one of those. You were very exact on your installation and getting those perfect, which is great because I get kind of bored at that.
Yeah. I like I liked everything a certain way. I'm OCD in that way, which, I'll tell people now on the design that, there's positives to that, because that's also what makes a good design. But I always like things to be level, to look good. And especially, I think after that customer in particular, it taught me to, everything's the same height. I think, not a thing, I know our guys now, they all have measurement tape on all of their tools. So everything is the same height, everything's level. So we kind of learned from that. But yeah, I like things particular.
Perfect. So you're doing installs. You did that for years. How did you enjoy doing the installation side of the business?
I didn't mind the work. Labor has never really been something I never got up and was like, oh, I hated it. I didn't. I actually liked you. I like Josh, who's now our operations manager. We were kind of the three amigos team, and so I didn't really mind it, but I knew, and I think you knew, I was probably better suited for dealing with people. I'm more of a talker. Josh isn't as much of a talker as I am. He's more of the systems guy. He's the rebuild and engine guy. I'm just not that guy, but I didn't mind that. But I think doing that for so long got me to know every facet of the business, know how we run wire, how we do everything. I had to learn all the technical side of lighting, and I definitely get those customers, meeting 2 or 3 people a day. I would say one of those 3 will be how many, the volts, the watts. I want to know every facet of the system. And if I didn't do that those first few years, I would, if I'm like, I don't really know how we do this, then, that customer's not going to go with us. But the fact that I instantly will have answers for everything, helps on my side now as a designer.
Yeah. And it's a struggle, I think, in this industry. You see so many of the guys I talk to, they're good designers. They're trying to run everything, but it all runs through them. Like when you met me when I first started, I think we were just finishing nighttime demos or starting to slow that down a little bit. And so I was going out 5, 6 nights a week, dying doing it. Then I started doing the daytime consults, which kind of opened things up. But it's one of the biggest challenges you have is like, how do you find somebody else that can, have not necessarily your vision, have their own vision in lighting design. What I saw in you early on was your biggest thing, as you just said, is like you enjoyed talking to customers. So you have the installation experience and then you have the enjoyment of getting to know customers. If you were a lighting business owner, there's a lot of them listening to this, like what would you say you would look for if you're looking to bring on a second lighting designer? What would be key tips you would look for?
The things I would look for is obviously personable. You have to be somebody that could walk into any room, whether it's a billionaire or a tradesman, and have a conversation with them and be personable. That's key. I think in any field, especially in sales, design, you want to be able to have someone that can relate to anybody, and definitely someone that comes off as honest. You don't want somebody that is the used car salesman vibe. You want somebody that has integrity, honest, and can hold a conversation. And of course, you want someone creative. You want somebody that has a vision, that is artistic, is not just going to follow a cookie cutter same thing, that is open to coming up with their own. Sometimes I might have differ from you, and you might differ from me on a design, and you'll do something I'm like, man, I wish I would have thought of that. That's really cool what Pat did, and that's the kind of stuff I would want. I would want someone that's willing to kind of open their eyes to other creative possibilities, but definitely the being personable.
So you've been in lighting for 15 years. This has become your profession. You've invested, you've been to the Sterling Summits, you've been to ILI, you graduated from ILI.
Yep.
And you continue to try and progress and learn. What are some of the things that you've done that you felt has been most impactful in like making yourself, really a top level designer?
Just, I would say some of the award-winning projects, of course, those stand out. It's always nice, having award-winning designs. That Wolf Trap is a big one because it's a staple in our area, the DC area. So that was a big design. But really, I think forget even design awards. It's more a customer that was referred to me, and they're like, of every house, we called you because there's 50 houses on this street, 30 of them are lit, but there's one that stands out and it's so much different than the rest. and it's this house, and it's the one that, you know, is one of my designs, it's one of our jobs, and having that, you know, hundreds of times over the years, that's always having that standout design, that standout property. I think I love hearing it, and that's something that I try to tell people that I meet with. It's like, well, we are the, you know, our competition is landscape companies that do lighting now, irrigation companies that do lighting. They are going to be a landscape guy that's, I can put lights across your house, couple trees. We are the company that this is our specialty. I look at it, you look at it from a artistic perspective. We're looking for beauty, elegance, you know, transforming the nighttime, finding out what the customer's wants and needs are, and turning a space into that, you know, will really blow somebody away the first night. You know, I can't tell you how good it feels getting a call at 10 at night or 9:30 or a text, and they're like, oh my gosh, 'cause we just did their install that day. They're like, my mind is blown how, you know, our jaws dropped when we saw, you know, the end result. So, you know, it's, that's still, you know, 15 years in, I love getting that kind
The
of stuff.
impact that it
The impact
has.
it brings to the customer. Now we have a backyard that my kids are out all the time. We never used it up until you guys did the lighting. You know, all my neighbors are now calling you because they want to look like our house. But especially, you know, families can now use spaces that weren't being used. So all of those things are big to me.
How often are you quoting a project that's $30,000 plus?
Probably every couple days now. Maybe at least probably twice a week, I would say. We've definitely, it's funny, looking back, you know, when we met to, you know, that's something that would have been like a week-long project. That would have been you know, in my early days, that would have been a 5 to 4 day design. But yeah, that's probably every couple days, at least once a week. Definitely.
So the money is obviously, that's a big, and it's a hurdle to get through. You know, it's a hurdle for any business owner, but anybody in lighting, it's like telling somebody this is going to be $50,000 or this is going to be $70,000 for your lighting. How have you battled that? Like, how have you gained that confidence to be able to just tell somebody this is what it costs?
I know me and you battled it a lot, because I definitely had for, you know, early, probably 2015 to, you know, 2019, and those were kind of my initial heading the design side of things here. And in my mind, you know, people barter and discounting, and it's just part of sales. And I felt that way.
We've had that discussion before.
Yeah.
People want a good deal. I'm like,
Yes. Yeah. And you would always tell me, like, starting to get that out of your head. And it's, and it was very true. I think once I kind of took your advice on that and was like, it's not about that. And it isn't, because it doesn't matter what number I give them, you know. Of course, they're like, oh, can you do it for this amount, whatever the number is. There's going to be people that say no to amounts, but once I got past that, and I just tell people from a very genuine place, like, this is what I can do it for. This is my design. If your budget is not, you know, if it doesn't meet your budget, I can get to that and still design something beautiful. And I'll work with whatever that is. But I think once I got that out of my head, that head trash out of my head, that and just kind of tell people the price is this. You know, we won't be the cheapest, but you're going to get the best design. You're definitely going to only have to do this once. I tell everybody I meet, even if I'm X amount more, I'm still going to be the cheapest in the end, because you will never do lighting again. You will do lighting one time. You know, maybe many years from now, we might have to service an LED, but we'll never have to replace it. I can't tell you how many, well, you know, but to anybody watching, how many times, you know, we did a job last week that was a $30,000 job, and they spent $20,000 4 years ago. And I replaced everything because it was bad work, bad design, but mainly the work was bad. It was just, everything was failing because it wasn't done properly. But yeah, I hate seeing that for them, but I definitely tell them, if we do it, that'll never happen again. And that, you know, they can live in this house the rest of their life, and they'll have our lights still working.
yeah. Sterling Lighting is obviously the manufacturing side. You know, there's a great partnership there. What percentage of your jobs are you designing with Sterling?
That's the only thing well, I'd say 99.9%. Every now and again, maybe a color, if someone asks for color, which please don't use color.
So you did have one that you sold this year. You want to talk about it?
Yeah. I had one job. I think that's the only job I didn't use sterling stuff. It has been the worst, my worst job of the year. I think we're at our 12th return visit, service call. So, yeah, it was tough.
And nobody warned you about it.
Yeah, haha, funny.
The fun side, you know, like as a business owner and a lighting designer, like bringing somebody up into the business and seeing like your growth and seeing like how much you've developed is, you know, really exciting. I think 2 years ago you won your first AOLP award, and we look at our design as, you know, collaboration, like because it really takes the product, takes the designer, takes the install team. But you were lead on a project 2 years ago. I remember that phone call where I was like, "Hey Andy, he just got one at AOLP," and you know, for me, it's such an exciting thing to see, like, hey, someone in our organization designing something like this. We got 2 phone calls this year, which were really exciting. So Carlisle House, let's talk about that one.
Yeah.
Do you know the history of the project? And
I know it's the second oldest building in the state of Virginia, from what Rebecca told me. She's the property manager there, so it's very historic. I know the courtyard in the garden is always in Washingtonians' top gardens, every year, top 10, I think, in the country. So it was a very prestigious property. I knew that going in. It's Old Town Alexandria. You can see the entire DC skyline from this property. The historic relevancy was cool. I love history, so that was interesting to me, and it was just such a pretty property. The trees, the landscaping, you could tell they really put a lot into it. And I was one of 4. They spoke with 4 companies, and I was the only one that did not do the typical mushroom style path lighting all around the courtyard. I had a different plan in mind, and I think that was one of the big things that sold them. And they just liked the design, the stuff I was talking about going into it, like what I had envisioned, downlighting from trees. You won't see fixtures. You'll only see the result of the lighting at night, and all those things led them to go with us. And I was more than the other 3 companies, but they knew what they were getting. They had a good feeling with us.
now one thing that held you back was budget. So they had a beautiful wall you wanted to light. You had another brick wall on the other side. You wanted to be 50 feet up in the trees. All of that cost money. So what was your overall budget? Like, how much did that limit you?
I think initially I wanted to, if I did all that, I was over, I think I was around 35 maybe, if I remember correctly. And I think the property manager said we are in the 20 to 24 range. So there was some things I had to sacrifice, but I knew I could still make it look really beautiful for that. But I did have to, take off that wall, which, in some pictures I'm like, it would have looked so good.
It's always stuff that kills you when you know the vision you had behind the design, and you're like, would have been better if I could have just done that. But money gets in the way sometimes.
There's one of our old catalogs, a backyard that's beautiful. And every time Pat and I look at this, he's like, man, you should have. He's like, the trees behind the house. And I'm like, I know.
One tree missing. And I think you called that customer back after the photo shot.
We did it, yeah.
And hey, I've been getting, Pat's giving me a hard time. I need to add in 3 lights.
A few months later we did it, but it turned out to be a beautiful job. But we were able to get within budget. I had to scale back on a few things, but it turned out beautiful.
And you had a different technique. Most people, when they saw the gazebo, would just light the gazebo. They'd either do down lighting from the gazebo, 8 lights, or up lighting with 8 lights, maybe put a light on the inside of it, and they're done.
Yes.
You put no lights on the gazebo itself. You downlit it with a really soft light. Talk about that a little bit.
That was one of the other things when we met, because it was the property manager and then somebody else from the Historical Society that met with me. And I told him about that in particular, like this gazebo, we love it. It's a focal point of the job. We really want to highlight this, and the other companies had just 8 up lights around it, all of them. And there again, I wanted to do something different, and We downlit it from a tree nearby, and it really showed it in a different light. It turned out beautiful, but it didn't look just so prominent where it just stood out over everything else. It blended in organically, but it looked, it looked different in a nice way. And the end result, obviously turned out great. But that's the kind of stuff, especially our conference and in 2018, going to Arizona, it was the stuff at night where I really started to change how I looked at jobs and how I just started designing things differently, because it wasn't until then that I would do our same template on homes, trees. Once I started to play with lights at night and then hear weird stuff from other people, like, we put 30 lights on this tree and 10 downlights in it. And what are you talking about? This sounds insane. And that would
57
be,
uplights on the tree.
that would be a
You're going,
$40,000 tree to light it. But it was cool to see stuff I wouldn't typically be able to do. But it also, that stuck with me because I was able to see how that looked and how good it would look. Because key is where people have a misconception is the number of lights doesn't dictate bright. They think, oh, it's 60 lights, it's 100 lights, especially when they see 100 of my flags around a property. Oh my gosh, this place is going to be Disneyland. It's going to be Vegas. Not if it's done soft. And that's one of the big things I love about using Sterling is I tell people, even if, I moved tomorrow, I would still tell people, if you're going to do lighting, use this product, because the adjustability on the LEDs, the long-lasting LEDs, the brass is having virgin brass is key. People don't think about, I don't want to pick on any particular brand, but I bought this light that's brass, and 5 years down the road, water's inside of it. It's cracking. That's because of all when you and Damien were talking, you were saying the doorknobs that were melted, the old toasters. That is true. You've seen it. All those things after 5 years all those impurities in the brass will come out in cold heat, and there'll start to be cracks in the fixture. So having the adjustable LED, that's the stuff that I could really change our design. I can set some trees really soft. I can make a white house really soft where I have an oak tree right next to it. The light goes all the way up. So those are the kind of things that will really make our job stand out, whereas the other guys just the same lights all the way across.
So the other project, the barns of Wolf Trap. So we started with Wolf Trap 3 years ago or so. I think we had to do a color changing scene that we don't talk about because it's ugly. But then had to get our foot in the door and work on that. But then you got the chance to do the barns. And the barns are a great place. It's where a lot of corporate entities will have their corporate parties before going to a concert. So really beautiful, historic, old red barn, just traditional. And so he had 2 large oak trees on either side, some nice trees going on the side, some bollards he had to deal with. But what was the biggest challenge on that job?
The biggest challenge with the bollards was one, because the light glare was a problem. The biggest problem was the light we were going to use. The CEO of Wolf Trap specifically said, we already have a lit barn. The barns are lit, but the scallops, I hate the scallop patterns in the barns. That was, he was like, I need a professional designer. I need a professional lighting company. And I had a design in mind, but I brought it to you, and you helped me with designing something specifically for that job. And when I told my contact over there, I was like, we're actually working on a light for this. I don't think he believed me. He was like, no, what? You're gonna make a light? And I was like, yeah, we're gonna make something that's gonna give an even wash. And actually, the problem wasn't the even lighting, it was getting all the way up the barn. So
You can put anything down low and get that little bit of light down low.
But it'll fade.
It fades, it doesn't carry. So it's like, that was a challenge. It came to me like, what he wants is perfectly even down to the bottom, going all the way to the top perfectly even.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, that doesn't really exist in our world. So
That was tough.
we sat down with, myself and Damien and you and Josh and JM and Kevin and Hillary and everybody and said, what can we make? And that's where we made that product line, which should be coming out, May, June to everybody, but that was pioneered that, which gave that look. Now, when we put the light on, what we found is the building itself kind of had a weave to it, and so you get these weird shadows. So talk a little bit about that. That was a surprising thing to go like, all right, now we got to go ahead and tweak it. So we actually had to match the two shadows on the front to
Yes.
get it even, so it looked like it was done on purpose.
The thing is, it's a barn. There's nothing specifically cool about lighting a red barn, and especially once we had the light on there, you could see the imperfections, the weaving in the wood, the warping, which I like. I like imperfections, so that it looked cool that way. It looked different. But the other big thing was we had some. There's a cupola. Is that cupola?
Yeah, you had the weather vane up top.
Cupola,
There was a
weather
cupola
vane,
up top,
yeah.
and then you had a
Cupola,
weather vane on
weather
top.
vane like
Yep.
that. We had lighting on the roof to light that. That was a little highlight piece on there. Once we did you and I both did a few different nighttime adjustments where we went out there and we moved the light back and shifted the placement. Once it took, a few of those, especially a job like that, very prominent. There's usually going to be some nighttime adjustments. Most of our residential customers, I tell them, you do this long enough, I can design it in the day and I'll know how it looks, which is true. But certain ones that are a little different like that will take a few tweaks. But between that and then I think around it, they had some really nice trees around it. Where you get your tickets before the concert, there's a beautiful group of dogwoods and a big oak tree. And we have a miniature downlight now that I use multiples in that tree so we could hide the fixture. So you just saw the soft moonlighting onto the area where it's kind of like a courtyard where people hang out.
Jana yelled, you're calling it moonlighting.
Downlighting, yes.
The
There's
old
a nice
habits,
downlighting effect that's soft on this little courtyard hangout area while you're waiting to get tickets. So between that and lighting of the structure, there's some boulders that I lit. Just some things like that stood out. But I think the biggest feat for sure was that light, the even lighting. That was huge. That was tough. And those bollards, I always hated those.
Great team project, great design, two great designs. You're hoping to win some this year?
Definitely.
Do you bring that up to customers when you're talking to them and saying, like, hey, I see something special here if you give me the opportunity?
Absolutely. I especially the bigger jobs. It's like anything. If you're buying a car, you want to go with the guy that's like, or if you're, I'm gonna buy the Toyota that just won the Formula One or Grand Prix. You want to go with the lighting designer that just won a prestigious national award. So that obviously I'll bring that up. So that's nice. That's huge to bring up with people.
I think that's really exciting. You got two great projects last year. Obviously, we had hundreds of projects, but it's something that kind of gives passion to say, like, what else can I do? Where else can I grow? 2025, we're looking for a lot of growth. We're looking for, even expanded our designs. And, I'm excited. I hope you're up for the challenge of continuing to grow and get better and better. Because it's just ingrained in our culture and our company to be like, we haven't arrived yet. We've done well, but we're going to keep getting better and better. We're going to keep enhancing our design, enhancing our products. I've been so proud of you watching you go from coming into the company 15 years ago, becoming, good friends. You're okay at cornhole, not great.
It's true.
Which has been part of something. Well, it's just me doing that.
Usually you're sarcastic when I am really good at something, but in this time you're accurate.
But you've done phenomenal on design. So you've become an elite designer in the country, and that's an exciting thing to see. So really proud of you, Andy. I thank you for joining today. Keep up the good work.
I appreciate it. I'll leave you with this. I would say, I definitely, I appreciate you giving me a shot early on. I'm excited to see what we have. I definitely feel like this company's a part of me. It's not just a job, for sure. I'd say for, Josh feels that way too. Karen feels that way. There's a core group of us. We kind of, there's the three of us forever. So, this has been a big part of my adult life. You know, my future wife is, I met through you guys and Damien. So definitely, you know, I always thought there was a future in lighting period, but definitely especially when we came out with our own products, and then, you know, getting into looking at design more as a serious designer and growing the business and showing other designers how to grow their business. We've all kind of come a long way, and it's been fun, and I'm real excited to see where we're at in 2030. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a great journey.
Yep. You meet your wife, you could make a career, use your artistic talents. A lot you can get from lighting.
That's right.
So great job. Congratulations on us bringing home 2 wins this year, and look to get a lot more next year and win some international ones. So great job.
Great. Hopefully it's going to be in Greece and win
We'll
some over
figure out how to
there.
get you to Greece
Yeah.
this year. So
Yep.
all right. Well, thank you, Andy. Thanks for
Very
coming.
welcome. Thank you.
All right.